Alright, so I wanted to shoot a tutorial video on how to make my protein gelatin recipe. It is super simple, but I know if you've never made homemade jello before, it might be a little bit intimidating, so I wanted to kind of walk you through the process and the things that I use in order to do this. At this point, I don't use my microwave method anymore just because I can put it in the crock pot and not have to worry about it boiling over, way less involved and hands-on. So first thing is make sure anytime you cook anything in your crock pot, I would recommend these slow cooker liners. Pretty much you don't have to wash your pot afterwards. You may have to rinse it out if there's a little bit of liquid underneath the liner after things are done, but it is amazing. You don't have to worry about cleaning your crock pot afterwards. So my favorite combination of fruit with this recipe, now I've been playing around with different combos, is 2 bags of strawberries, a bag of pineapple, and a bag of peaches. And all these bags are 16 ounces a pound each. So as long as you have fresh or frozen fruit that totals up to 4 pounds, then you should be good to use whatever combination of things you want in this recipe. Those will go in the slow cooker on high for probably about 6 hours. I'll make sure that I clarify how long it took on the next video. After they're done cooking, you'll know they'll be done because they'll just be kind of fork tender, kind of mushy and almost falling apart. And the pineapple will cook the least mushy of all of them, so the strawberries will be the most tender, and then the peaches, and then the pineapple. So what I typically will do, transfer them to a large Tupperware container, and then use my OXO salad chopper to kind of chop things up. I found that if I try to puree the fruit all the way, then the ratios of the water and gelatin do not set it up as much as I do when I just leave it in chunks. So what I will do in order to figure out the volume for the recipe, because it makes 10 servings and each serving is 10 ounces, is put an empty container on my kitchen scale and then zero it out, and then I'll add the bowl with the fruit to the kitchen scale and measure how many ounces it is, and then any difference between 100 ounces and how much fruit is in the container is the amount of liquid that I'm going to be adding. And I'll usually just do 1 container full of liquid where I add the gelatin, and the collagen peptides is optional, but it has really good gut boosting properties, which is one of the points of gelatin in the first place, besides just being tasty. So I'll add the lukewarm water and gelatin and collagen peptides to fill this up, and then I will also add to that first one 2 packets of each of the Crystal Light flavors that are my favorite. I don't know why, but I don't like the other ones, the plain ones. I like the ones with caffeine. For some reason, they just seem like they're more flavorful. If you can tolerate caffeine, I highly recommend those too. The orange or the citrus in the regular line of Crystal Light just is not as good to me. If you want something that has no artificial sweeteners in it, True Lime makes all kinds of flavors. These are the ones I had on hand to show you, but you can use basically whatever you want to kind of boost up the kind of sweet tartness of the recipe if you want to. If you don't, you can totally just use the fruit on its own and it's still good. So I add 2 packets of each of those. Oops, I want to do the 10-ounce serving of 10 10-ounce servings, and then what I'll do is I'll add 4 packets and then the gelatin and the collagen and fill it up with water, pulse it so that it's all mixed, and then I will add it to the fruit. And then what I'll do is I'll zero out the scale again, and then with the empty container, and then I'll add it to the fruit and fill it up until it gets to 100 ounces so that I know I've got my 10-ounce servings. And that works out to be a good ratio regardless every time as far as the flavor goes. Then once I put it in the fridge to set, and then once it's done setting, I will use my kitchen scale and divide it up into my 10 10-ounce servings in these little Tupperwares with lids, and I will freeze them. And it actually freezes, you know, it'll stay several months with no problems in the freezer and thaws out really well. It doesn't turn to liquid when you thaw it. It thaws out like Jell-O. If you know you're going to be having it, you can take it out the night before and thaw it in the fridge. If you forget, you can use defrost on your microwave and just watch it closely, because if you overcook it, it will turn into liquid again. So at this point, we're going to be putting the fruit in on high, and I will pick back up once that's done, and I'll let you know exactly how many hours it took. Alrighty, so this ended up cooking for about 6 hours, and as you can see, the fruit is pretty much like falling apart, fork tender. The pineapple is not quite as, doesn't fall apart quite as easily as the strawberries and the peaches. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to transfer that to the Tupperware and then chop it with the OXO like what I showed you before. I've already got the gelatin mixed up, and you can see how it's starting to thicken. This was just the water, the flavorings, and the gelatin and the collagen peptides. And so what I'll do is I'll zero out my kitchen scale with the empty Tupperware, add the fruit and the juice from the fruit, and then add this, and then whatever is lacking from 100 ounces I'll add in water, stir it all real good, and then stick it in the fridge until it sets up. So that's where we will pick up after, and I'll show you what the gelatin looks like once it's set. All right, so this is what the finished product looks like, and I am going to divide it into my little 10-ounce servings in my Tupperware containers and then freeze it. Wanted to show you guys how I typically eat it. Once I thaw it out, is I mix a scoop of protein powder and a serving of powdered peanut butter. PB2 is the brand that I like. This protein is phenomenal. It tastes like vanilla cake batter. This is the label that came the last time I ordered it. It's Nature Aid is the old logo that they used to use. I guess they rebranded, but it tastes exactly the same as it did before. And if you look for it on Amazon and you just search Nature Aid pea protein powder, either that label or the old label will come up. It's the exact same product. And so, like I said, what I do is I mix a scoop of that with the powdered peanut butter, and then I will mix that into the gelatin, and it tastes like peanut butter and jelly. So I hope this was helpful for you guys, that it showed you that this gelatin is really easy to make and is a great meal prep option, and even something that you can batch prep, you know, like this is 10 servings, like a double recipe. So let me guys know what you think. Tag me if you make it. I'm at CheeseGirlPA on Instagram, and then on Facebook I'm Casey Cheeseman PA-C. All right guys, enjoy.